All right. A very good evening for all the students and parents in the um, Strate School of Design who will be participating in this e-meet. So a very good evening. And as you are all aware about our e-meets, the purpose of conducting this e-meet is to help you interact with the top management of each school and also to understand the academic philosophy of each of the schools, which would help you to apply to select schools based on your preferences. So in case you have not followed or not checked out our webinar on mastering the art of statement of purpose writing, so you can access that on our YouTube channel. And also you can join our YouTube member community so that you can access all these precious videos. Right. We also have WhatsApp group chats for 2025 and 2026 admissions. Okay. So we will share these links with you so you can join the respective WhatsApp chats, and you can also ask us your specific questions related to the schools that we are featuring. You could also scan the QR code to access our pitch decks for the Design Schools 2025. And also you can get access to the applications of all the design schools that are working with us. And you can also check out the various DQ Edge listing of design schools. So please do scan and access them. So we are very glad to have Strate School of Design. So as you all know, Strate is a very well-known French school, which has a legacy of 30+ years. And we have two young dynamic designers and professors with us, Karthikeyan and Varuna. So they will be hand-holding us to understand the school philosophy and also the future of design. So since you are all aspiring to make a career in design, it is also important for us to understand what future holds for us, right? A little introduction to Karthik. In fact, Karthik and myself, we have began our career together. Okay, we started our journeys at General Motors. Karthik was from IISc and I was from IIT Delhi, and we got campus placed, and with other designers, we started our career together. And currently, he is the head of transportation design group at the Strate School of Design. He oversees and delivers courses and projects related to transportation design. And before joining Strate, he served as Deputy Dean and Head of Academics and Studio at Ajinkya D.Y. Patil University, Pune for 6 years. And he graduated from CPDM IISc in 2004 and began his career as creative designer at General Motors Design Studio in Bangalore. During his tenure, he worked on various exterior and interior design projects for both Indian and global markets. In 2020, he moved on to Mahindra & Mahindra and later worked with Hyundai and Tata Motors as a lead designer until 2016. So in this period, he contributed to initial concept development of products such as the Tata Punch, Tata personalization products, and the Mahindra & Mahindra Scorpio refresh. And after 2016, Karthik joined Chinese OEM Geely, or Geely, as you pronounce, as a lead designer, where he worked for 2 years before returning to Pune. So welcome, Karthik, for the show. And we have Varuna Iyer. So she's currently the head of interaction and identity design at Strate School of Design. And she's a seasoned designer with nearly 14 years of diverse experience in the idea to market product domain. And her expertise spans design strategy, interaction design, and identity design, where she integrates a customer-centric, quality-driven, and business-focused approach to every challenge. So Welcome to you as well. Sorry, Varuna. So let me hand over the session for Karthik and Varuna, and please do share your questions in the chat window, and we will pick them up, and we can address those questions very shortly. Over to you, Varuna and Karthik.
Hi, thanks, Umesh. Thank you for the lovely introduction. Let's say when you talk about interaction design, even when it was meant, when it came out like 20 years ago, it was always a discipline of the future. And even today, it is a discipline of the future. So, this particular topic seems very close to my heart. And I will cover larger industry trends that are happening. And some of them have to do with digital design, but not a lot of them. Um, I'll cover this further as we go, right? So, thank you for being here. And yeah.
Yes, you're welcome, Varuna. We are happy to have you here.
Thanks. So, one of the things that Strat particularly believes in, if we want a just, if we want a fair, if we want a minimalistic and a simple future, design is the only choice there is to make that happen, right? Unfortunately, we live in a world where a lot of resources are being wasted, and we are almost racing our way towards global warming, right? We believe the solution to a more elegant, more fulfilling future is design. And that is why we emphasize design, right? The kind of design we speak about isn't purely aesthetic, but it is it has a huge emphasis on solving problems. So we solve problems through design. We use design as a medium to solve problems. What kind of problems? The problems that affect you and me on a human level, right? So it becomes extremely important for us to make our designers not just aestheticians, but also thinkers. This is an overview of how our school looks at the moment, and this is our lovely campus in Yalanka, surrounded by a lot of greenery. And we believe that being in the midst of nature is what inspires designers to bring in the best work, and you can see the campus reflects just that. Who am I? Much like Umesa spoke about, I am a design strategist, I'm an interaction designer, and I've been a graphic designer in the past. I have worked in healthcare, I have worked in the world of EVs, and I've worked in the world of edtech. Um, but my core skill is really breaking down problems and, you know, trying to solve them through products, businesses, and how do I put it? Products, businesses, and solutioning, right? So, this is something that I personally am very passionate about. So, I'm going to start by setting the stage of what I mean by interaction design, because there is a certain definition of interaction design that you might have read, or each of us have a different variation of it, right? So, what I mean by interaction design is it is a process of designing interactive products and services by focusing on how users interact with them, right? And aiming to create meaningful and effective experiences. So, I just want to set this as context before we begin, with an emphasis on creating meaningful and effective experiences, right? And I have curated my entire conversation moving forward in that vision, right? With the vision of creating meaningful and effective experiences. Okay. You will find a lot of cross sections, not all the things I will speak about fall under the traditional domain of interaction design. But interaction design is anything that aims to help people interact with the world around them better. Human to human, human to machine, human to machine to human, human to machine, right? So all forms of interactions is what I have kept in mind while building out this deck. So, to start with, I think this is a very positive trend that we've noticed. Moving from a people centric solutioning to a planet centric solutioning, right? And this is particularly my favorite trend that I saw coming through, especially with the emphasis on the Paris Climate Accord and each of our countries now has a liability for carbon reduction, right? And we can see this, although we are not able to meet it, right? We can see this taking the center stage for the next 5 years at least, especially because if you read the climate change the climate change mission that we have, all the countries have to manage our rising temperatures in the next 5 years to be within 1 degree or 1.5 degrees in order to have manageable climatic conditions, right? Which is where I believe now this has started taking a center stage. So, a couple of ways in which we have started experiencing planet-centric solutions is energy transformation. What do I mean by energy transformation, right? Most of our energy sources, even today, come from fossil fuels, right? You're talking about electricity comes from burning fuel, petrol. And now we are seeing that move, seeing that shift, right? In terms of automobiles, you we are seeing a rise in EVs. We are seeing a rise in more sustainable forms of mobility. We can also see this in the form of like more independently, more people adopting for renewable resources. Also, countries investing in large scale renewable resource planning, right? So I believe this is something that we are going to see as a growing trend moving forward. The rise in biophilic design solutions. Now, although we need more green spaces, although we need to fight climate change with sustainability, our limitations remain around development and space, right? So the question here is how can we use space in more sustainable ways? And biophilic designs give us exactly that. So nature is a 20,000-year-old R&D, and who better to take inspiration from if not nature, right? So we're looking at a lot of coexisting between the natural world and our man-made world happening, and architecture, as well as we can see spaces beginning to emulate more of the green philosophy that we are currently moving towards. Okay, so this is a second trend that I believe is on the rise, especially when it comes to consumer electronics, right? So, invisible technologies to enhance the quality of life. What do I mean by this, right? We are we are no exception to all the noise that comes with technological development. We moved into a space where you have notifications every 2 minutes, every 3 seconds, there is an ad fighting for your attention, right? I believe as a human race, we've reached a saturation point, and now the technologies that will be preferred and the consumable technologies that will be bought uh, would be the ones that actually enhance your quality of life and exist quietly while your quality of life goes on without technology, or there is more of an emphasis on human to human connection or quietness, and the traditional values that we originally came from. A good example of this is nothing, right? So the nothing has a glyph technology. What that means is if I put my phone face down and let's say I get a call or I get a message, the lights around the glyphs on the case that you see in front of us start lighting up, right? And you can set these patterns to light up differently if different people are calling, so you understand or you are able to categorize them by levels of importance and emergency, right? So this is another trend that we are looking at. Um, Another output of this is something called as a minimalist phone, and this is an app that has been there. Um, it's in the market, but I don't believe it's reached its fruition in terms of um, how popular it can be. But essentially, the app asks you to shortlist five core things that you use on a daily basis. It removes the noise of icons and notifications and all of that. And it just gives you the five apps that you use most importantly in the manner that's displayed, which is just a list format. What this does is it reduces your cognitive load, and it also doesn't fight for your attention. And I have started seeing, personally, even with my student work, I've started seeing an increase of such technologies. So this is another one that you can look at. Now, Internet of Things and wearables, this has been there for a while, but we're going to talk about how this is moving forward, right? So I'd like to take a step back for a minute and talk about the book which says the future is faster than you think, right? So one of the things that Peter Diamandis talks about is the evolution of technology is not always linear. It's not always in the form of bigger, better machines, right? We are looking at democratization of technology by technology becoming cheaper and more accessible to everyone, right? So, although IoTs have been in the market for a while, we are going to see a rise in it because I believe the affordability and the accessibility to it will actually be much easier in the coming years, right? So the rise in wearable technology in the form of your in the form of your watch already exists, right? But I believe now we can use the same matrices that your watch is using in terms of heart rate variability as well as checking your pulse to be able to discern a few other metrics like your emotional quotient, like your anxiety levels, like your depression levels, right? And I believe this is going to be the next turn for our wearable technology. Okay. Now, gesture-based interactions is a extension of invisible technology. And why is that, right? We have moved into a space where AI is able to read gestures. So let's say if I clap or if I snap my fingers, there is presently technology that is able to read it, and we could potentially code home automation with these gestures. So, for example, if I snap, can the lights go off, right? So, we are looking at more of technology being passive, right? As well as integrated into our lives, which is why we are doing away with more instruments and moving more towards human based input, right? And hence you're talking about gesture related interactions. But I also believe that you're going to have a similar extension when you talk about voice related commands, right? We're going to see a rise in these. Multisensory experiences, this is quite interesting and this is quite niche at the moment, but I believe we are looking at this coming more and more into the picture. What I mean by that is, as humans, we are very tactile in nature, and I believe that using your technology and being inside your screens is getting to a saturation point. Okay, so this is a photograph of a restaurant in Ginza in Japan. It is a multisensory. It's a multisensory restaurant, so it specializes in a certain kind of beef. But when you sit inside, right, there are olfactive elements that are added as a part of your four-course meal, right? There is visualization that happens around you. Okay, there is a certain kind of music that changes along with the dishes that come in, right? So, this is our attempt through technology to make our experiences more tactile and more memorable. Another example of, for example, this is one of the dishes, and you'll start seeing, let's say, cherry blossoms and the Japanese motifs come alive while these dishes come out, right? So, that's about it from me. I think, Umesh, over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Varuna. So you have nicely covered all the aspects that we can see in the realm of interaction design in the future. So in terms of the invisible technology, right? So it is not just that um, the minimalism that happens in the technology, but it could literally disappear from our physical environment. So right now we are seeing so many gadgets around us, and these gadgets may slowly kind of disappear, and we can get closer to the nature, right? So pretty cool. And let us listen to Karthik and understand the future of transportation design. Karthik?
Yeah, thank you. I will share my screen quickly. Okay. Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks a lot for joining. Thanks a lot, Bruna, for your presentation. Let's move on to the transportation side of it. When we talk about future, it is not about, we will not talk exactly about what we want to talk about, but we talk about so many things around it so that we understand what will happen to what we want to talk about, right? So that is how I want to start. Before jumping into it, a little bit of context setting, like what is car design and why we care so much about it, right? So if we look at cars, right, or any automobile, the basic function is to move anything from point A to B. So the function has not changed over a period of time. So it's going to remain the same forever as well, right? But if we look at the evolution of cars, or transportation products, it has gone through so many changes, right? Some of them were looking very small, some of them look like aircrafts, some of them are looking like aliens these days, right? So, what is the reason and why is it so? Because we consider cars as not just a product that helps us to do certain things, but also cars have become integral part of our life. So they represent ourselves, and they start to look like ourselves at one point of time. So why and how is this happening, right? So to better look at uh, how these things will change and also how these things are evolving. I think I'm breaking it down into a few factors. For our simplicity, I want to take a look at technology, social factors, environmental factors, and style factor. So these are not the only ones based on which cars are changing over a period of time, but for simplification, for us to understand things better, I think these four are the core areas. And they are interconnected as well to some extent. So starting with technology factors, right? So Electrification is a very basic, simple example wherein how powertrain technology has revolutionized or changed the way cars are being designed, right? For so many years, I think cars are known for their face. The major expression comes from face, and now the face looks very bland, and there is literally no expression. This is purely because of the mechanicals that go behind the car. So you don't need a radiator right in the front. So you don't need a opening that that has taken out the grill from the front, right? But still, companies have done pretty well with the new technical challenges, and then this is setting up a trend as well as when we talk about car design. So second, this is the growing trend. I think this is very fresh. And then we talk about the growth of the robots. I think automotive companies are have also become companies of technology as well. Recently, I think even if you take Hyundai or Tesla or Honda or anyone, all of them have showed very strong robotic developments in their company. This does two things. One, it is automating their manufacturing plants. So in a way, they are cutting costs through that, and then also is helping them to build advanced technology to make their cars more effective and efficient. Right? These are recent launches. These are not concepts. I think Tesla is going to run these robo taxis for live, maybe in very soon, very near future. And second thing, like what we discussed about the robots, I think robots are changing the manufacturing setups. Nowadays, I think even yesterday we were reading something about the Chinese industry, wherein they are running 24/7 factories without anyone working inside. Right. So this is going to change the way we produce products and the materials that go inside, and then the level of customization, personalization this can bring to any product we design. And then we can also talk about the immersive technology because there is this huge development and growth in digital tech. I think whatever product we have is nothing without some sort of a digital element, right? So this is going to disrupt car industry as well, particularly the way we move from point A to B and the things we do during the journey as well. Adding or continuing to it and expanding on top of it, I think adding to the autonomous future, I think these technologies are going to disrupt the way we travel and focusing more on the experience than just moving from or driving a car. So the other one, which is fairly important for anyone, right? So whether it is garment industry, fashion industry, or anything, is the way we carry ourselves. So there is this growing demand for personalization in any product. Maybe this is again coming from the liberty what we are enjoying through digital products. Like any apps or website or wherever you go, you can customize the products what you're using. So this will soon come into cars as well. This has been very tedious in the past, but with newer technologies, with newer color changing panels and paints and other systems, I think cars are going to be a lot more easy for you to express yourself. Right? These are some of the things what I see as the very prominent technologies that might influence car design. Next, we come to social factors, right? So social factors means I think it talks about people, the user, your customer, demographic, age groups, and profession, and whatever it is. So if we look at India, right, in 1980s, a typical car buyer was someone who is retired and then spending his retirement pension money, right, to buy some luxury statement. So that is how it used to be, and then it slowly transformed into a very functional unit. When Tata Nano was launched, I think everyone was super excited because they thought they can also afford a car and then they can move safer and a bit more protected from the traffic congestion and other stuff. And when we look at people and the demographics that are buying cars today, they are much younger. And they have multiple options as well. So this says a lot about how car industry will evolve. And it's not just about the demographics. I think user play a very prominent role in the design of the car as well. This may be coming from the region from where you are, and then the amount of money you have to spend, and then your sensitivity to social issues and other things. So all of them will have a deeper impact on the choices you make, and hence the car design is continuously transforming. So some of the impact areas, like so, for example, this must have seen in many places, BMW grill evolution, right? In 1980s, it was purely a German brand with very meaner and the very typical German looks. And then slowly in 2020s, I think there was this bigger growth in their brand in China and Asia market. So they started to transform their brand statement to adapt to newer markets. Right, so this is one way, and I say moving forward into the future, I think they are trying to redefine their brand statement again. Right, so always have the user in the central place uh, while designing all the proportional things. And this is another major brand launch Jaguar did. I think after 1961, they did this very aggressive or very brave move to change the language completely upside down to redefine their brand. I think these are some of the examples that shows how the changing demographics are influencing different brands. The third one is environmental factors. I think this is not very difficult to talk about. I think this includes a lot of things, not just pollution, but also your traffic congestion, and then your sensitivity to the people around you, and then the growing technology and how they interact in public. And then there is this interaction between autonomous cars versus normal cars, and pedestrian to car safety and all the stuff. So also, it also talks about how people are looking at cars these days, because the growing demographics are not those typical car enthusiasts. They are becoming more of a technocrats. So their focus is not into driving anymore, and though they enjoy the travel, but the focus is not into driving as such, right? As it used to be maybe 20 years back. So the focus is on travel experiences, and then even they are not focused really on owning a car because that gives them a lot of freedom in enjoying the travel with multiple or different body styles. So the ownership model is going through a lot of change. I think even during the COVID times, I think we have seen this quite a lot, wherein people started to explore other ways of owning a vehicle as well. So this is one of the trends. And then the other thing is the expansion of mobility systems from cars to different other systems like flying cars and then eVTOLs and other things. So to take advantage of this, I think car companies have started rebranding themselves as a mobility companies than an automobile companies, right? Say Ford, once it was called as Ford Motor Company, they rebranded themselves as Ford Mobility Company. So same with Renault and many other companies as well. So people are trying to expand their presence in the mobility the mobility space, and not just trying to confine to car design. So this will influence their product design in a way to bring some standardization across their product line. Yeah, last but not the least, the style factor. This has been evolving over a period of time, and still it has multiple factors to it. I think whatever we discussed before are going to influence what we are designing. I think typically, if you take Indian market, I think there is this growing need for SUVs. This has a direct connection to the demographics because people who are buying are much younger, and they don't have 6 7 people in the family. It's mostly for 2 to 4 people, and they can afford to spend. All these factors come into play, so that defines the proportion and stance of the vehicle. So cars are becoming much taller, much higher stanced, and then bigger wheels. These are certain elements what we have started seeing. And even if we look at bigger brands like the sports car brands, they have started looking into SUVs as one of their cash cow market to cater to larger segments as well. So the other area is as we move towards slowly towards the autonomous scenario. I think there is this growing trend in MPV segments, wherein these MPVs are not designed as very boring vans, but they are like spaceships, which emphasizes a lot on the interior space and the experience inside. And the second one is the surface treatment. I think with the newer manufacturing technologies and newer communication, what they want to do with the products. I think people have the surface languages has also been being transformed from a very crisp and chamfered surfaces to much more softer and pure and clean surfacings. Grills, I think we discussed a bit. I think we are seeing almost no grill these days because of the technology and the other developments in the other areas. Apart from this, I think though there is this growing trend towards modernism and futurism, I think there is this growing need for retro futurism, with a lot of brands looking back at their older products, the successful ones, and then trying to relaunch them in a newer and modern way. Same, so I think interior is a much more interesting place to look at when we talk about future trends, because interior has a lot of components inside, and then typically there are a lot of technologies that goes inside interior, whether it is today or yesterday, right? So this shows the evolution of how interior is progressing over a period of time. I think when we started in 2010, I think radio was one of the premium thing, but as we move towards maybe in future, I think we will not have anything right in front of you, and as minimum as a screen, most likely, right? And then this is all based on the tech development around us. I think how smaller the AC vents and other components can get. So that decides what we have inside the car, and also the need for experience has increased these days. So the idea is to focus on giving more space for people than for the plastic parts around you. So that is one reason maybe. As we move forward, we see much leaner and cleaner interior design. So also with growing trends in autonomous, and then there is no clear definition of driving inside the car. I think the multi-functionalities can crop up with inside the car that might lead to different way of looking at interiors, right? So these are some of the upcoming or future trends for from the design point of view. We look at the process a little bit. So there are certain aspects of car design process that is also interesting to look at, because car design is also controlled by the way we design cars. Cars are very heavily invested industry. I think a lot of money goes inside in building a car. I think this is a broader picture of how vehicle development happens, wherein you have this program formation, and then there is quite a good amount of engineering and design work together to come up with the necessary concept, and then pass it on to manufacturing and other processes. Right. So in the initial phase, I think of design, I think we focus a lot on conceptualization and 3D and physical development of the ideas. Right. So this is how typically a process goes for a designer. I think he sketches a lot of ideas, and then there is this stage wherein you are validating your ideas through clay models and other physical models, and then it is again tested in PR 1:1 scale, wherein decisions are taken. Right. So there are different newer technologies that has come up in making these different stages right really effective and efficient. I think AR VR usage has been growing prominently in these years. I think Gravity Sketch is one of the platforms where you can design cars or sketch cars in 3D. And even in our college, I think students use this in most of the projects to conceptualize the volumes in the very initial stage. This also helps in understanding the proportion and package quite well. So you know what you're designing. I think you can design with mannequins in place. So you are in good control of the volumes since the beginning itself, instead of just drawing on a paper wherein it is purely conceptual, right? And then growing trend in AI in design, right? So there are so many AI tools. I think Viscom is one of the prominent one, and our college also students use a lot of Viscom stuff to ideate and refine their ideas in the very initial stage. But they still focus on manual skill set. But this is one of the tools, I think, as we go forward in future, I think industry is also adapting to and try to faster their design process, right? And the last one, but not the least, is the 3D workflow. Once upon a time, 3D used to be a very specialized activity in the industry. But today, even before coming to the design school, I think so many students, we see them using 3D tools like Blender. Okay? These are open source free softwares which allow student or anyone to create very interesting, very compelling 3D models that are of high fidelity, which can be 3D printed and explored further. So this gives them a quick understanding of 3D forms, shapes, and colors and materials. And this also helps them to visualize them in realistic environments. That again helps us to grow with our knowledge about cars very fast. Right? So I'll just summarize all of them with a very quick case study. I think this was one of the projects, I think, in 2006. I think Umesh might remember. I think this was the SSR and Chevy. This is one of the good examples of how tech interrupted or thought of disrupting car design process. I think this was a redesign project, and then the red sketch was the actual SSR, and then it started with the ideation process, and then there's a lot of theme sketching happened in Photoshop, and then there is this package brought in by the engineers, and then theme sketches were refined to fit the package, and then 3D models were built, and it was milled out completely. This was the first project wherein GM thought of foregoing clay modeling process, and then they built the whole car through digital tools. But still, I think they learned something, and then they did bring back the clay modeling process and back into the workflow. So as we move forward, I think technology in process will keep evolving, and it will. I think there are many technologies that will come and go, but the core skill set remains the same, and we do emphasize that a lot in the school. Yeah, I think that is it from my side. Thank you, guys. Yeah, up to you.
Yeah.
To you. Uh,
Thanks,
Umesh.
Karthik. Thank you so much for a very comprehensive overview of the evolution of cars and where they are headed. And you talk about the tech, social, environmental, and then style aspects, how they are getting affected, and also how the companies are renaming and rebranding themselves from a motor to a mobility, right? That gives more scope of, getting into various aspects of mobility as well. So very interesting. Thank you so much. And just a small observation that when we're talking about mobility, the entire presentation was on the four-wheelers and not on the other modes of transport. I mean, any specific reason, or is it the philosophy of the school that you are mostly into the car design?
Not really. I think most of the trends are shared between four wheelers and two wheelers. I think as we move towards more mobility companies, I think people are not seeing that real difference between two wheeler or four wheeler.
Okay.
And these factors are quite generic and top of the level, so they can be easily applied onto any type of product form. So the influences are more or less the equal, I think, substantial.
Okay, cool. So let us focus on some specific aspects related to the PG program that you are offering to the students, right? Okay. So for any person who is trying to get into a career in design, two aspects basically hit their mind. So one is what they are going to learn, okay, and how relevant would they be in the industry in terms of employability, right? Okay. So though there is a lot of things that are happening in the industry in terms of the technology and changes that we perceive, I would like to first touch upon the employability of these designers. Okay, so considering that they would be doing a 2-year program in a PG level, so compared with a 4-year program, those who do design in depth. So how is your program structured in a way that the PG students get placed in the industry with a 2-year program?
Okay. Varuna, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I can start if you would like. So actually, that's a very interesting question, Umesh. Thank you for asking that. We actually focus a lot on employability, and our entire course curriculum is dictated by that. And I'm talking, this is the general ethos of the school, right? So this is true of all streams. But I'm going to take some examples and elaborate it from an interaction design point of view, because I'm here to talk about interaction design, right?
Right.
One of the key things is one of the key differences between like a 4-year program and our 2-year program is that our 2-year program is obviously a lot more fast-paced, because the skills that somebody is able to acquire over a span of 4 years is quite differently timed and paced, right?
Mm.
While someone who needs to acquire those skills in 2 years is quite differently paced, right? But the tenets of the design that we live by, or at least I'm sure I can say this is true of my department, is we believe in creating intentional designers. We believe in creating problem solvers who solve problems through design. So, um, we emphasize on design not just being a tool of aesthetics, but actually going out there and finding the problems that are being faced by people, bringing that to the table, and aiming to design solutions towards those, right? There is a huge emphasis on that. There is also a huge emphasis on the emerging technologies and the mediums that are coming up. So, for example, what do I mean by that, right? We also we have core skill courses, like, so as a UX designer they need to learn the UX core skill, they need to learn the research, they need to learn the interaction design, but they also get to learn things like biomimicry. They also get to learn things like system design, right? They also get to learn things that are aspirational in nature. So far we were doing system design. Now, what has happened this year is we kind of got together and we realized that maybe there is a huger emphasis on system design, and maybe pushing the envelope on that might be interesting. So the three departments came together, and as a part of our system design course, we are organizing around human machine interaction. So, for example, if I switch on an electric fan, right, what's the feedback that
Mm.
happens? How do people know that, okay, the remote is actually working, right? What kind of technologies go around it? How do you prototype for it, right? So, there is a lot of emphasis on building your blocks to be a successful designer in the future. And our aim is to create designers who are relevant to the corporate industry.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, Karthikeyan
Yeah,
can
yeah.
take up.
Okay, yeah, so I will add a couple of points with respect to transportation. So, when it comes to transportation design, right, so it is very skill intensive. So, our
Mm.
recruitment process itself is pretty stringent. We start from there. I think we make sure, I think they are coming at some level, because that is mandatory. If you are if because master's PG level, the course needs to be a little bit advanced. We cannot talk about very basic subjects, right? So that was a time maybe 5-10 years before, when design started from master's program. But these days I think we have students coming out from a lot of these design schools, so PG has to be really intensive. So the recruitment process is very stringent, and that makes sure we are selecting the right candidates who are qualified enough to focus on the thinking part and not on learning how to do part, right? So then with the industry focused projects and the collaborations what we have, I think we are putting them on the right projects, so they are performing and then they are getting through those things. So that is the approach as far as transportation design is concerned for us.
Right. Very interesting to know. So, the students who are applying to Strat should have certain prior skill set, especially for the PG program, right? In terms of the car design, for sure, that transportation design. Maybe is it the same for the interaction design as well? If that is the case, what are the skill sets that you're looking for in the desired candidates?
I think the thing with interaction design is it is such a vast field that you can find yourself in one corner of interaction design, if not another, right? But mainly the things that are important for an interaction designer is their ability to put two and two together. Okay, what I mean by that is how curious are you to collect data? How curious are you to make meanings out of larger life events like Karthikeyan was talking about, right? And the thinking part becomes very important, right? It does add most, of course, you have to have some design background. We cannot start from scratch. But it's okay if you're not an interaction designer. As long as you understand hierarchy, as long as you understand visual design and stuff like that, we can still mold you with enough effort for interaction design.
All right. So please correct my understanding. So somebody who is applying for PG course with you, should they have a design background, or anyone can probably, who has interest to pursue a career in design, can also take part?
No, they need to have a design background as a part of the PG course.
Oh, really? Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, so to some extent, but what I also suggest is that I
Right.
think there needs to be a little bit of design sensibility in terms of how to learn design. If that orientation is there, then it is easy for us to work with them.
Right, of course. Yeah.
Because then there is a lot of unlearning happens. The people spend a lot of time in unlearning more than learning. So if they are exposed to design in some sense, I think because we have a student who is an engineering student right now, but he worked in a design studio for a year,
Right, right.
right? So
Understood.
he knows what it means when I ask him to sketch 100 times, right? So he will not shout at me. He will not get upset, right? So that
Absolutely.
is the level of sensibility what we expect them to
Okay.
come in with.
Okay.
Otherwise, I think degree and other things are secondary.
All right.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That's exactly what I meant when I said design background, is they need to have a certain sense of design.
Sense of design, some design awareness, and some exposure to design. So they could have probably done an internship somewhere, or
Precisely.
yeah, or
Yeah,
they could also have a strong portfolio which communicates their design sensibilities and awareness. Then it might work. All right.
precisely. Yeah.
Yeah. So somebody who's applying to your school, um, what kind of a portfolio they should be looking at for interaction design and for transportation design? So what is your expectation from them?
Okay, Karthikeyan, do you want to
Yeah,
go?
yeah, yeah.
Yours is
Yes.
the most
So
straightforward answer.
yeah, I think for us, I think we will check the skill level and also thinking abilities to some extent. We don't want to see just sketches, but we want to see them in a project form so that we know how they are understanding a brief and then deconstructing the brief to come up with some solutions. So we don't expect them to perform 100%, but if they at least try to attempt it well, I think that is good enough. But from the skill point of view, I think we expect them to be at some level to begin with.
Okay.
Yeah, so that is the expectation broadly from transportation for transportation.
Okay. Okay. Varuna, would you like to share some thoughts on
Yeah,
interaction design?
I think, yeah, so mine's not as straightforward an answer,
Mm,
but the basic parameters of design that, let's say, an interaction designer can look at, right? One is their ability to exercise their design thinking faculties, right? And in this, I mean logical as well as the aesthetic design, right? So let's say a graphic designer who wants to move into interaction design, that's that's okay because they have the ability to think of a project in a certain way, as well as break it down, like you said, deconstruct it in the form of deliverables, right? That's one. Second, the your basics of visual design, your hierarchy, your color harmonies, your typography, these things become very important because it's hard to backtrack at a master's level and teach you very basic, right?
Mm.
But apart from this, from an attitude point of view, as an interaction designer, I think the most important quality is insatiable curiosity,
Mm.
right?
Okay.
I think this is just my opinion, but I often say this to my students is if you if you want to be satisfied, don't be an interaction designer. Right? It is for somebody who's constantly hungry because you think you know, and only then you realize how much you don't know. And no matter how much, like I've been in this field for 10 plus years, and every year that I know something, I know how much I don't know. So there's so much more for me to learn.
Right.
And I think that would be true of even Don Norman, who's like literally the godfather of interaction design, right? So I believe that sense of insatiable curiosity and being willing to do the work to
Mm.
take something from the start to the fruition, and the logical thinking of adding your research findings to your synthesis, adding your synthesis findings to your product requirements, adding the product requirements to create flows and ultimately screens, right? That logical derivation is quite important as a skill.
Right. Okay, cool. So in terms of the application process and the selection, um, would you have a written test followed by an interview and portfolio review, or is it purely based on the portfolio for the PG students?
I think there is a written test followed by an interview.
Okay, all right. So let us now focus a little bit on the facilities that you have in the school for the transportation design and for the interaction design, right? Um, So if you're talking about the interaction design, so one of the areas where the industry is also expecting a huge growth is in the field of XR, right? So does Strat support students to explore the XR field as part of the interaction design?
Yes, actually, in the fourth year, we do have a course on 3D and visual VR and XR, right?
Mhm.
Where our students actually make working prototypes on the with the help of the Oculus, right?
Mhm.
So yes, we do support that. Not only do we support that, we actually encourage that.
Mhm.
Um, Personally, and that's start standard it, right? Personally, for me, uh, I I personally love XR, but I believe that sometimes it could be used as a crutch. What I mean to say is somebody can get too focused on the technology rather than the solution. And
Mhm.
that is something I often try to veer away from. I tell them choose the solution and let the technology fit into the solution rather than making the technology the solution.
Right. I think many companies try to attempt that. I mean, they have a great technology and they're trying to see use cases, how you can use them, forcefully put into a solution. Yeah. Great. So, are there any specific labs that you have um, for the interaction design that you would like to kind of talk about? Any specialized laboratories?
We do have a computer lab, and that's general, right?
Mm.
It's not only for interaction designers. We have high resolution computers with Vacoms, as well as we have Oculus that our students can use.
Mm.
So it's true of not just interaction, but also transportation designers, also product designers, or even foundation level classes. So yes, we do have a state-of-the-art lab. It is equipped with the best CPUs and the best machines, workhorses. It's also equipped with a lot of Vacoms, that they can use. And we are equipped with Oculus and modern technologies that help our students explore these.
Nice. So, Karthik, would you like to shed some light on the
Yeah,
transportation design? Yeah.
yeah. So for transportation, I think in addition to the computer labs, I think we have a 3D printing room lab where I think most of our project models are printed. I think it is free for any student to use for the projects. And we have clay facility wherein you can do scale models. And then there is this workshop for foam working. And also attached with a paint shop. So you can work, you can choose your material and work either on foam or clay, or you can 3D print your stuff. So these are the labs what we have in addition to the vacuum and other XR facility.
Okay, cool. And in terms of the projects, while the students are working, so would they get an opportunity to work with the industry projects, some live projects for the semesters or anything like that? You could probably share some projects that students are doing or have done in the past for the PG level.
Yeah, I think this was there in the social media as well. I think we had this collaboration with Tata Motors. I think,
Mhm.
and we did 3 years of I think the continuous projects with the PG students. And we outside this, I think we work with a lot of startups as well. The
Mhm.
EV startups. I think we recently completed a EV project. I think we cannot reveal, but I think this will soon come to the market as well. So this was a super live project, and that was industry project as well. And then we are right now collaborating with Jaguar Land Rover
Oh,
on a special project for the Year Force. This is the master first year and the masters. Both the batches are working together.
oh,
So there are
interesting.
so many industry projects. That's why I think we are very strict on the recruitment.
Mhm.
Because they will be directly onto bigger projects, so they should be
Yeah,
in a position.
very
Yeah.
nice, very cool. Very happy to hear that. So, Varuna, any industry projects that your department would be taking?
Yeah, so we have in the past worked with IKEA for speculative design and actually designing for the future,
Mhm.
right? We have partly also collaborated on certain projects with the ones that, let's say, Karthikeyan was talking about, where interaction designers and transportation designers get into cross-functional teams,
Mm.
and they've developed scenarios for the future, possible plausible scenarios for the future, and
Mm.
helped design that whole experience and the system design for the transportation company alongside with the transportation designers. Apart from this, we sometimes also work on, let's say, design sprints. So let's say companies that come to us and say, hey, we just want like 1,000 ideas in this domain, right? So
Nice.
we spend
Okay.
like 5 days really digging into it and
Mm.
coming up
Mm.
with a whole batch of just ideations, right? Which
Mm.
the company has the ability to choose from if they want to take it forward.
Mm.
So these are the different ways we work with people. Apart from industry projects, we also sometimes look into social, public related projects. So something we are looking into is called Pedaluru, which is a campaign that has to do with the Bangalore city and how to enable people or how to encourage people to use more of cycles and
Oh,
walking, finding ways of counteracting the traffic problem in Bangalore.
oh, pedal uru, is it? Pedaling uru.
Pedaluru, Pedaluru.
Yeah, it's a city based on pedaling.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
that's cool. So, so what would be the faculty to student ratios at a PG level, and how the personalized mentorship happens at Strat?
Okay. As per the Strat pedagogy, right? So we involve a lot of visiting faculties. The idea is to bring in industry experts to the teaching as much as possible. So about 65% of teaching happens through visiting. So most of the time you will see somebody from some big company in the campus. The general faculty to student ratio is 10:1. Uh, uh, that is the ratio if we want to put it in numbers. And then most of the projects, I think we work at one, I think, personal level. I think the ratio is pretty small. So I think we could easily spend more time with the students quite comfortably. So I think, yeah, so that is from the transportation side. I think maybe Varuna can add.
Right.
It's more or less the same, I think, across the school.
Yeah, so another like I think Karthikeyan made a very apt point is, and I forgot to actually mention this in the previous question, which is how do we prep our students for the industry? Is that the belief that Strat functions with is we get the people who are best at what they're doing from the industry and get them to teach our students, right? So on any given day or any given week, we at least have two or three external faculty, right, who are coming. So basically, let's say my research faculty will be a researcher in a company. My UX faculty will be the head of design in a company. You know what I mean, right?
Right.
So again, on an average, I have a few more students because interaction design has gotten a bit of a vibe in the last few years. So you could say 4:1 is an average student teacher ratio.
Okay. Perfect. Perfect. So it seems your next intake for the PG students is on 28th of March, and it's an online test, followed by a 2-hour, 30-minute, it's an online test of 2 hour, 30 minutes, right? And followed by an online interview and portfolio review. Okay. So would you, for students who are in Bangalore, would you call them to the campus, or for them also it is like an online session?
Oh. Yeah, we are more than happy to have them in the campus, but sometimes if they are the other side of the city, so they prefer to do it online. So we
Okay.
keep the option open. I think we don't force them to come here, but we are more than happy to meet them in the campus. I think we can. I think it is always fun to see the portfolio in real, right? So they bring
Right.
sketches and stuff. So
Right.
that is more immersive than online. Yeah, but we will not force them to come in the middle of the traffic. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Cool. So, would some talented students get some scholarships, or do they have any opportunities for financial aid? If yes, how much and how many? Could you share some thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, if admissions team, if you guys want to answer this, so the basic it is merit based. I think based on your test score and your interview performance, and there is no fixed amount. The percentage waiver is decided based on your performance in the interview and test. So it fluctuates. I think it fluctuates between 20 to 80% or 100%. I don't know
Okay.
exactly.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So.
Right. Um, so would like to understand, based on your previous experiences or the PG students, what would be the biggest challenges that they would be facing in the program, and how would you overcome those?
Okay, yeah. So I think this is a very popular question, right? So for first challenge, like what I said before as well, I think the unlearning process, right? There's going to be an unlearning process. No matter whether you studied design before or not, I think
Mm,
adapting to strat atmosphere and then the pace what we work with, right? So there's going to be a bit of stressed time in the beginning, and your alignment to the system and alignment to the faculties will decide how fast you can move ahead. One of the major challenges in design, because it is largely mentorship based, unless otherwise you trust your teacher, you don't see your teacher, right? So this alignment has to happen really fast, and we put in as much effort as possible to bring them to the level of each one. I think we try to level up the field so they feel comfortable in competing for all the projects and other things. So I feel that is one of the major challenges. I think Varuna can add.
right.
Yeah, so actually, Karthik pretty much compiled it. A couple of things that I have noticed from my side, and this is pertaining the interaction design, but it could also extend across the fields. One is the pace of the course is extremely high, right?
Mm,
Because oftentimes when you're talking about somebody who's coming from the outside world
mm,
into interaction design, uh, my students who have been here for 5 years have gone through, let's say, foundation, where
mm,
they've learned their basics of visuals and things like that. They've gone through the strategic end of interaction design, which has to do with your service design, your design research, your design operations, all of that. And they are now in the masters learning skill based outputs, right? So the first half of the year, people often have to, a part of the learning unlearning process is also that they have to unlearn what they know, and they have to go back to at least starting from the user research, how to conduct user research, how to conduct service design, how to map these experiences. And this is they need to do in half a year, right?
mm, mm,
Over and above that, the second half of the year, the um, focus moves to skill based as well as technology based. This is where learning VR comes in. This is where learning 3D modeling comes in,
mm,
right? So the pace of it is quite fast. The depth of the work is needs to be quite deep because design has to be authentic because you see it, right? If it
right.
is, you know. So oftentimes my challenge has been about go deeper and go faster,
Mm,
right? And there is really not much for us to do in that zone, but we do provide as much support as we can for them to take that forward. Apart from this, I think, like he said, a whole attunement to the start ecosystem and how we think around things,
mm,
right? That requires a little bit of effort from the student's side because we don't, we believe that best people, we can only teach them to learn.
mm.
We can't teach them how to design, right? So the incentive or the ball is in the student's court.
Right. Cool. So apart from the design subjects that they're going to learn, would they have any electives that they can choose from?
Mm, yeah, I think more, there are interdisciplinary courses and electives like circular economy, and there are some certain courses focused on sustainability.
Mm,
There are certain courses focused on human sciences, like cognitive and other things, which sits on under all the streams. So students, they choose to do it together, or it is distributed. It is fairly their choice. Yeah.
okay.
Yes.
All right. So, so apart from these academics, could you share some thoughts on the extracurricular activities or competitions maybe you may be participating, or maybe some research conferences they may participate, or would they travel as part of their curriculum? Would they go to some design studios or maybe abroad? Could you share some thoughts on the extracurricular activities they get to do?
Yeah. Okay. Competitions is something we encourage the Siam competition, right? So we have four of the physical model development and all those things. What we do, we make a project room, and then these guys are going to work together. I think this is a mixed batch of first years to masters, final years, and it's a varied group, but they are all sitting in one place and they are working towards it. So competitions are always happening here and there, right? So there are so many of them. And other than that, I think we do short trips related to projects. We visit dealerships and places like that. to study and understand new technology or
Mm.
a design of self-driving cars, right? I think last year, I think they were in Toyota showroom studying the welfare. So these are products you don't see on day-to-day basis. So
Mm.
we frame a project around it, and then they go for the field study, and then they spend one day in the dealership and understand. And there was this industry projects also happen. So field study is part of it. So they go around, talk to user, and then understand how certain products are used in the field. So that helps them to go out a bit and then face the real world to some extent.
Right. Okay, cool. So, one final and very important question, right?
Yes.
So, I mean, it's a common question, but it's a very important question. Why Strat? How Strat is different?
Yeah, the last 1 hour is all about that, right? So I think there are two things that we emphasize. One is the stronger connection to industry, and second is the rigor in terms of the curriculum, right? So the whatever happens inside Strat is really fast paced, and then we expect them to perform at a very high level, and we engage them with industry professionals almost continuously. So these two are very unique as far as I'm concerned. So Varuna can obviously add. So this is what I feel uh, is making us different from others.
Yeah, I think all the things that we said and all the things that Karthikeyan message also mentioned, right? I believe the key difference is actually an intent difference. Okay. And the key difference comes from you don't just become a designer, who's able to give output. You become a designer who's intentional in nature. You become a designer who thinks about your design not just from the purview of is this cool or is this looking good or is this meeting the brief, but you are expected to think about everything right from where it is coming from, where's your material coming from, is it coming from sustainable means, what is the manufacturing process, does this impact the ecology around us, what happens to the person using it, what happens once you discard it and you throw it, and what's the impact it has on the rag picker or the trash collector. We emphasize the whole chain, and my point to all my students is this: if you don't have intent at any of these levels, it doesn't qualify as good design from our perspective.
All right, cool. Thanks for that. And one last, this is a final question. All right. Okay. Um, could you talk about the placements for the PG students with some examples? Right. So ultimately, the 2 years of effort that they put in, they should get placed in some promising company and with a promising job, right? And if you can also throw some numbers like, okay, what is the pay packages for them, and what if a student is unable to get into land a job? So how you support, and what kind of action is taken by the school to help them? Yeah.
Actually, we do have a very active and a very well-oiled placements team, okay? That obviously all of us do support them with connects and all of that. We've had pretty good experience with getting our students placed, and that is one of our USPs also, right? That we get you placed in the right companies. Our attitude to placements is also different, right? Just like our attitude to how do I put it, to design, right? So the game isn't about, oh, let's get everyone placed in Fortune 500 companies and they might hate their lives for the next 3 years. No, like we try not to. We try to match the right students to companies and place them in ways that is most fulfilling for them, not just as designers, but also as as human beings, right? So it has to be a skill set match, it has to be a cultural match, it has to be a mindset match.
Mm.
What are the pay packages? It entirely depends on the skill level. We've had people from one of our alumni teams had gotten in with like 12 and 14, and we've also had people who've been at 8, 7. Actually, some people have rejected offers that have high paying packages and gone for a lower paying package because they believe the learning curve and the company is more conducive to what they want, right?
Mm.
So the whole philosophy around around our placement is also intent.
Mm. All right. And the master's degree that they get, um, is it MDes or MSc or MA, or how is it like
I think for now it is going to be MSc, MSc from Jain University.
from the university? All right. Cool. Cool. Awesome. So I think many of the questions have been answered, and thank you so much for giving an overview of the future and what happens in Strat and what you're looking for, what students get, and what they will learn and how they can grow. So thank you so much for Karthikeyan and Varuna for sharing all these insights and sharing your valuable time. Okay, and I really wish the school all the best and hope you'll have a great admission season.
Thank
Yeah.
you, Umesh, and we couldn't have done it without you. So, well, kudos to you. Thank you for having us here.
Thank you, Varuni.
Thank you very
Varuna.
much.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Okay. Cool.